Completion is a discipline long before it is a reward. Many begin with passion, clarity, and enthusiasm, but far fewer carry the same intensity to the end. What weakens resolve is rarely a lack of ability. It is fatigue, distraction, and the quiet temptation to settle for partial progress. Yet unfinished work carries more weight than failed attempts because it represents potential left unattended. In this season, finishing is not optional, it is essential. There is a unique resistance that appears near completion. Early stages are fueled by excitement, and middle stages are sustained by routine, but final stages test commitment. This is where doubt grows louder, weariness becomes heavier, and alternatives appear more appealing. The urge to pause, revise endlessly, or abandon altogether often surfaces when the outcome is closer than it feels. Recognizing this resistance as a sign of proximity rather than failure helps you push through rather than pull back. Finishing requires trust that the effort invested will be honored even when results are not immediately visible. Many abandon assignments because they expect affirmation before completion. But trust matures when obedience continues without applause. The willingness to finish without external validation strengthens internal resolve. It teaches you to measure success by faithfulness rather than recognition. Trust also becomes essential when instructions defy logic. There are moments when the next step feels unreasonable, inefficient, or even risky. Logic asks for proof, but trust moves on conviction. This does not mean ignoring wisdom or discernment. It means recognizing that understanding often follows obedience rather than preceding it. Waiting for full comprehension before acting can delay progress indefinitely. Completion exposes what you truly believe about guidance. If you trust direction only when it aligns with your comfort or expectations, trust remains conditional. Unconditional trust persists even when clarity feels incomplete. It allows you to take the next step without needing to see the entire path. This kind of trust does not eliminate fear, but it refuses to let fear determine movement. There is also a refining that happens in the act of finishing. Early efforts may be driven by inspiration, but completion requires endurance. Endurance builds character, strengthening your capacity to carry greater responsibility later. What you finish now prepares you for what will be entrusted to you next. Unfinished assignments limit future opportunity, not as punishment, but as protection against overload. Trusting through completion also means resisting the temptation to revise purpose based on discomfort. Discomfort does not always indicate misalignment. Often it signals growth. Adjustments may be necessary, but abandoning direction entirely usually stems from impatience rather than wisdom. Completion demands discernment to know when to refine and when to persist. There is a quiet confidence that comes finishing well. It reshapes how you view yourself, replacing doubt with evidence of faithfulness. Each completed assignment becomes a reference point, reminding you that you can endure difficulty and follow through despite uncertainty. This confidence is not arrogance. It is grounded assurance built through experience. Trust and completion work together to activate what comes next. Movement follows momentum, and momentum is sustained by follow through. When you finish what you were given, you signal readiness for greater responsibility. This is not about perfection. but about perseverance. Completing the assignment, even imperfectly, demonstrates alignment, resilience, and trust strong enough to carry you forward. This is not a moment you drift through half aware. This is not a message meant to entertain, motivate for a few minutes, and then fade into the noise of everyday life. What is happening now carries weight, urgency, and consequence. There are seasons where time moves slowly and you can afford to learn by trial and error. But this is not one of those seasons. This moment demands attention because it is loaded with instruction, and instruction always precedes transition. When direction is released, it signals that movement is near, and movement means decisions must be made with clarity and seriousness. Many people miss defining moments because they treat them like familiar ones. They assume tomorrow will offer another chance to listen more carefully, to obey more fully, or to respond more intentionally. But defining moments do not announce themselves loudly. They often arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary days and simple words. Yet the difference is not in how dramatic the message sounds, but in what it requires from the listener. This moment requires focus. It requires discernment. It requires the humility to recognize that what is being said now is connected to where you are being taken next. There is a reason the instruction feels heavier than usual. You have already walked through preparation without realizing it. Pressure, disappointment, delay, and isolation were not random experiences. They were training grounds. You were being shaped to carry responsibility, not just blessing. When instruction arrives after pressure, it is not meant to overwhelm you, but to align you. Alignment is necessary because misaligned movement, even when well-intentioned, can cost you what you prayed so long to receive. This is why this message cannot be treated casually. Casual listening produces careless obedience, and careless obedience leads to unnecessary struggle. The cost of ignoring instruction at this stage is greater than before, not because grace has expired, but because capacity has increased. More has been entrusted to you, and with greater trust comes greater accountability. You are no longer responding as a beginner. You are responding as someone who has been entrusted with insight, experience, and responsibility. There is also a shift in timing that must be understood. Instructions given in one season may not apply in the next, and obedience that was optional before becomes essential now. What you could once delay without consequence must now be handled immediately. What you could once ignore without noticeable loss will now create visible damage if neglected. This is not pressure meant to frighten you. It is clarity meant to protect you. Many confuse urgency with panic, but the two are not the same. Panic rushes blindly, while urgency moves intentionally. Urgency understands that windows open and close, that opportunities are seasonal, and that obedience must meet the moment while it is still available. This is why awareness is critical now. You must be present, not distracted, alert, not entertained, intentional, not passive. This moment is defining because it determines direction, not just outcome. Choices made now will echo longer than you expect, shaping pathways you will walk for years. Treating this message lightly does not stop what is coming, but it may affect how prepared you are to carry it. Attention now saves regret later. Obedience now prevents confusion later. This is the kind of moment where listening carefully becomes an act of wisdom and taking it seriously becomes an act of faith. Humility is often misunderstood as hesitation, silence, or shrinking back, but true humility has nothing to do with fear. It is not the absence of confidence, it is confidence anchored in obedience rather than ego. In critical seasons, humility must walk hand in hand with boldness. Without boldness, humility becomes timidity. Without humility, boldness becomes arrogance. The balance of the two is what allows progress without distortion. Many people struggle in this area because they confuse waiting for permission with being humble. They delay action not because direction is unclear, but because approval is uncertain. This kind of hesitation is not humility, it is insecurity. When instruction is clear, humility responds with obedience, not delay. It steps forward quietly without announcing itself, but without retreating either. Growth often creates discomfort in others, especially in those who are accustomed to a previous version of you. Humility does not require you to minimize what you have been entrusted with to keep others comfortable. Shrinking to maintain peace is not humility, it is avoidance. True humility allows you to move forward without resentment, even when your progress is misunderstood or questioned. It does not demand validation, nor does it seek to prove worth. There is a subtle strength in moving without explanation. When you know why you are moving, you do not need everyone else to agree. Consensus is appealing, but it is not required for obedience. Waiting for universal support often results in missed opportunities. Humility understands that direction does not become more legitimate because others approve of it. It becomes effective because it is acted upon with integrity. Bold obedience does not mean recklessness. It means acting decisively while remaining teachable. Humility keeps your heart open to correction even as your feet keep moving forward. You do not assume you know everything, but you also do not pretend you know nothing. This posture allows growth without stagnation and confidence without pride. There will be moments when humility requires you to stand alone, not because you are superior, but because your path is specific. Standing alone is uncomfortable, and it can easily be mistaken for arrogance by those watching from a distance. But humility is not concerned with appearances, it is concerned with alignment. It is willing to be misunderstood temporarily in order to remain faithful consistently. Fear often disguises itself as caution. It tells you to wait a little longer, to prepare a little more, to be more certain before acting. While preparation has its place, fear-driven delay can quietly undermine momentum. Humility recognizes when preparation has been sufficient and courage is now required. It understands that obedience rarely feels fully comfortable at the moment of action. Walking in humility with boldness also requires releasing comparison. Measuring your pace against others can cause unnecessary hesitation or forced acceleration. Humility stays focused on assignment rather than competition. It moves at the speed required by purpose, not pressure. This balance produces a quiet authority. You are not loud, but you are steady. You are not rushed, but you are decisive. You move forward with respect for the process and confidence in direction, allowing obedience to speak louder than self-promotion ever could. Words carry weight long before they carry sound. What you speak has the ability to shape direction, influence outcomes, and expose what is still forming within you. In sensitive seasons, speech becomes especially powerful because what is being built is still vulnerable. This is why guarding your words is not about fear or secrecy, but about wisdom. When something is in its early stages, exposure can do more harm than silence. Many people feel an urgency to explain themselves, to announce what they are becoming, or to seek affirmation for decisions they have not yet fully settled. This urge often comes from uncertainty rather than confidence. When clarity is complete, the need to over-explain disappears. Guarded speech allows understanding to mature before it is subjected to opinion, criticism, or misunderstanding. Not every thought needs a voice, and not every instruction needs an audience. There is a difference between being open and being unguarded. Openness invites accountability and support, while being unguarded invites interference. Some people do not intend harm, but their lack of discernment can still disrupt what is forming. Questions, doubts, and casual remarks can plant seeds of hesitation where confidence was meant to grow. Guarding your words protects your focus from unnecessary influence. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, but it is frequently a sign of strength. It takes restraint to hold something valuable without displaying it. In a culture that rewards constant sharing, choosing silence requires discipline, yet silence preserves clarity. It allows you to move with intention rather than reaction. When you speak too early, you may find yourself adjusting your direction based on feedback that was never meant to shape your path. Speech also reveals alignment. What you can consistently say reflects what you truly believe. Guarding your words is not only about what you share with others, but also about how you speak internally. Rehearsing doubt, fear, or frustration strengthens their influence. Speaking carelessly to yourself can undermine confidence just as quickly as external criticism. Disciplined speech begins within, shaping mindset before it shapes conversation. There is also timing involved in effective communication. Some truths are not meant to be spoken until the foundation is secure. Timing determines whether words build or break. The same statement can inspire when spoken at the right moment and create resistance when spoken too soon. Wisdom knows when silence will do more than explanation. It recognizes that understanding does not always come from hearing, but from witnessing results. Guarded speech also reduces conflict. Many disagreements arise not from intention, but from premature disclosure. When people hear plans they cannot yet comprehend, they often project their fears onto them. This creates unnecessary tension and forces you into a defensive posture. Silence allows progress to speak on your behalf. Results often communicate more effectively than explanations ever could. Choosing to guard your words is an act of stewardship. It acknowledges that what has been entrusted to you is valuable and deserves protection. Speech should serve purpose, not impulse. When you learn to speak with intention, your words gain authority. They are fewer, but they are clear. This discipline ensures that when you do speak, your words carry weight, direction, and peace rather than confusion. Separation is often misunderstood because it is emotionally uncomfortable. People tend to associate it with rejection, punishment, or failure, but in reality, separation is frequently an act of preservation. There are moments when growth requires distance, not because something is wrong with what you are leaving, but because it cannot sustain where you are going. When direction changes, alignment must also change, and not everything that once fit will continue to do so. One of the greatest challenges in separation is learning how to release without resentment. Bitterness creates emotional weight that slows progress and clouds judgment. Carrying offense into a new season is like dragging unnecessary baggage onto a journey that already demands strength and focus. Separation done with bitterness keeps you emotionally tied to what you were meant to outgrow. Separation done with grace, however, frees both your heart and your future. Many relationships serve a specific purpose for a specific season. They provide support, understanding, or companionship during certain stages of development. But seasons shift, and when they do, clinging to what was can interfere with what is being built. This does not diminish the value of those connections. It simply acknowledges that purpose changes over time. Honoring a season means knowing when it has fulfilled its role and having the maturity to let it end naturally. Resistance to separation often comes from fear, fear of loneliness, fear of misunderstanding, fear of appearing ungrateful. Yet staying connected to what no longer aligns out of fear can quietly sabotage progress. The discomfort of separation is temporary, but the damage of misalignment can be lasting. Choosing separation is not about abandoning people, it is about protecting direction. Graceful separation also requires clarity about identity. When you are secure in who you are becoming, you do not need everyone's approval to move forward. You understand that not everyone is assigned to walk every stage with you. Some are meant to teach you, some to challenge you, and some to walk beside you only until you reach a certain point. Recognizing this prevents you from forcing continuity where change is necessary. There is also wisdom in recognizing that proximity influences perspective. The environments you remain in shape how you think, what you tolerate, and how you respond. Separation creates space for renewal, allowing your thinking to adjust to the demands of the next season. Without this space, old patterns can resurface, not because you desire them, but because familiarity makes them comfortable. Letting go without bitterness requires intentional forgiveness, even when no offense was intended. Sometimes separation happens not because of conflict, but because of calling. In those cases, forgiveness is not about releasing wrongdoing, but about releasing expectation. You stop expecting people to understand decisions that were never meant to be explained fully. This releases pressure and preserves peace. Separation is also an act of trust. It trusts that what is meant to reconnect will do so in the right form and at the right time. It trusts that provision does not depend on proximity to certain people, but on alignment with purpose. When separation is embraced with humility and clarity, it becomes a doorway rather than a loss, creating room for growth that could not occur otherwise. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the discipline of restraint. In a world that rewards speed, reaction, and constant output, stillness feels unnatural, even irresponsible. Yet there are moments when moving too quickly can undo years of preparation. This is one of those moments. Listening now requires more than hearing words. It requires patience, attention, and the willingness to wait until understanding settles deep within you. Action without clarity may feel productive, but it often leads to correction that could have been avoided. Many mistakes are not the result of rebellion, but of impatience. People hear part of an instruction and rush ahead, assuming the rest will reveal itself along the way. Sometimes it does, but in critical seasons, partial understanding can be dangerous. Stillness allows the full instruction to surface. It creates space for nuance, timing, and sequence. What to do, when to do it, and how to do it are often just as important as the instruction itself. Without stillness, these details are missed. Listening in this season also means filtering. Not every voice deserves equal weight. Opinions multiply when change approaches, and advice becomes louder when your direction becomes less familiar to others. Stillness quiets the external noise so that discernment can operate. It teaches you to recognize which voices bring clarity and which introduce confusion. This is not about isolating yourself from wisdom. It is about prioritizing the voice that has proven faithful in guiding you before. There is a difference between waiting passively and waiting attentively. Attentive waiting watches for confirmation, checks alignment, and remains sensitive to correction. It does not rush because it trusts that what is meant for you cannot be missed when you move in proper timing. Haste often comes from fear, the fear of being left behind, of losing momentum, or of missing opportunity. Stillness, however, is rooted in trust. It believes that direction will be clear before movement is required. This season demands listening beyond surface level understanding. Instructions may come subtly through patterns, repeated impressions, or consistent inner prompting. Without stillness, these signals are easily dismissed or overlooked. Listening deeply means sitting with the instruction long enough for it to shape your thinking, challenge your assumptions, and expose areas that still need adjustment. Sometimes the delay is not because the instruction is unclear, but because the listener is not yet ready to carry it out correctly. Stillness also reveals motives. When movement stops, intentions become visible. You begin to recognize whether your urgency is driven by purpose or by insecurity. Listening exposes what you are truly responding to: calling or comparison, obedience or approval. This clarity is essential because actions rooted in the wrong motive can look right on the surface while leading you off course underneath. Choosing stillness requires courage. It takes strength to pause when others expect progress, to wait when momentum is praised, and to listen when silence feels uncomfortable. But this courage is rewarded with precision. When clarity finally comes, movement becomes confident rather than chaotic. You move with assurance because you know you are not guessing, you are responding. In this moment, stillness is not delay, it is preparation. Listening is not inactivity, it is alignment. The discipline to wait until understanding is complete protects you from missteps that could cost far more time to repair. This is how wisdom operates quietly, positioning you to move forward with accuracy rather than speed.